Welcome to the Energetically You podcast, where we will be talking about healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. I'm your host, Megan Swan, creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. At 30, I sold everything and went on my own eat, pray, love journey, if you will. And now, at 41, I'm still on my first stop here in Mexico, loving life and feeling more energy than ever before. This podcast is for ambitious women who are looking to level up their energy so that they feel happier and more productive throughout their day in all of their projects and passions. Inside, we are going to be talking about ways to truly tune in to our minds and bodies in new ways to leverage our natural energy sources. So let's dive in. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Rosalyn Fung. Her handle is at Sexy Bold Warrior. That's how I discovered her. Her vibe, her energy is just so contagious. I'm so excited to get to know her better. And that's why I invited her on the podcast. She's just a fascinating lady. She is an Akashic Visionary Life and Business soul coach who is passionate about helping lightworkers and healers get out of your own way, all in capital letters, show up unapologetically and authentically to confidently attract their soulmate clients, ditch imposter syndrome, and raise client results through the Akasha mindset strategies and her offerings in life and leadership certification programs. She is a facilitator and trainer of the Flourishing life coach certification program, a speaker and a 2-time international best-selling author, former psychologist, second degree black belt in karate, a Reiki Master and divine compassion multidimensional healer, mastermind and workshop facilitator on the topics of feminine leadership, self-love, mastering your energy, money mindset, and attraction marketing. She has her own podcast called Activate Your Soulgasmic Business, and she delivers meditations with light language activations. Rosalyn has been featured in Huffington Post, Cbc Radio, and has spoken for Fearless Women Summit. This woman means business and at Harvard University. So let's get to it. Welcome, Rosalyn. How are you today? I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity to get to know you better.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here, Megan. Thank you so much for having me.
You're in Kelowna, am I right?
I am now, yeah, about 2 months in, and I'm originally I was born in Calgary, Alberta, and then really grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Crazy. So I was born in Edmonton, but don't really say that out loud very often because I grew up in Calgary.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
And I've spent all my summers in the Okanagan. I have family in Vernon, so
And now you are in Mexico.
And now I'm in Mexico, but yeah.
Wow.
So
we'll have to come visit.
I might take you up on that. So tell me I just read your bio and there's just so many interesting layers that we can go into. I definitely want to get back to the Akashic Records piece because I feel like a lot of people don't even know what that's referring to.
Yes.
But tell us about your journey from being a psychologist to what you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I'm going to try to concise this journey a little bit, and I'll speak a little bit more about, because I know that this will bring a lot of value to the audience, my own struggles in my journey and how I really navigated through those. So let's rewind back to 2008. And imagine this, I'm standing on a figure bodybuilding stage, and I am in this like teeny-eeny black bikini, my quote unquote perfect fitness model physique, and I'm just smiling, but behind that smile, I'm just dying inside. I'm just totally dying. I'm starving, first of all, and I'm dehydrated. But it's interesting because if you look at the snapshot of that, and there's pictures of me in my bodybuilding days, it looks picture perfect. and including like the rest of my life at that point in time. I just started private practice as a psychologist, something I had also been working really hard for. And I was a second-degree black belt in karate and a role model to kids, teens, and adults. And I was, and I still am, happily married to my husband. Back then it was 3 years. And we are 19 years together and 15 years strong now.
Wow, congratulations.
And so, I was really, we'll say, confident in everything that I did back then. Certain aspects of my life, absolutely, I was happy. But behind closed doors, I was secretly struggling. I was struggling with restricting food. And then emotionally eating, binge eating was my form, feeling guilty about it, beating myself up, and then purging by over exercising. And I never felt like my body was perfect enough. I wasn't lean enough. I wasn't muscular enough. It wasn't the right portion. My stomach was never flat enough. And it just didn't seem like I could find this perfect formula. I was really obsessed with getting that body. And on that day on stage, I can laugh about it now, I actually came in last place. And that was so devastating. It was so devastating, Megan. It led me to a breakdown. And what I didn't realize was, at this time again, I was a therapist, and it led me to learn about a method called Hikomi. And it was just so beautiful that Hikomi came into my world at this time. Hikomi is, what it means is a study of how do I stand in relationship with myself and how do I stand in relationship with others. And it's an approach that combines neuroscience, psychology, and at this time I'm like, this thing called spirituality. And so it's a somatic experiential approach. We're really studying through the body, the sensations, the emotions, because our body can't tell the difference between thinking about something versus being there. So often when we are telling a story, if we just pause and we just check in with our sensations, with what we're experiencing, feeling wise, all of a sudden we're there, even though we're not actually in that story, but our body believes it to be. And so through this work, which is so profound, and I think it's the quickest way to shift unconscious limiting beliefs, I found out I was unconsciously operating from this belief that I am valued in my doingness. So my achievements, my status, my awards. Yeah, exactly. Everything that like is a societal success marker, rather than my beingness, who I am. And my doingness never felt enough. And so no wonder I had become this overachiever, this perfectionist, and this hardcore type A personality, like very, very masculine driven, even though it looks very feminine, but energetically it was like no pain, no gain. That was like one of the most profound moments of my life at that point in time. And it made me realize like, wow, I can't continue living this way. No wonder I was so hyper focused on what I look like, because unconsciously I really wanted to feel worthy. If I have this perfect body, then I'm going to be worthy. So I realized that that was completely toxic. And that's what society teaches us, is that if you do this, then you can have this, and then you can be this. So if you do the diets a certain way, in my example, and do the workouts a certain way, then you can have the perfect body, and then you can be worthy or be good enough. That was a total bunch of bullshit, right? So I realized, and so you've turned your pain into your purpose. So for me, it was like I did the inner work at that point. I was like, wow, I learned how to come home to myself, learned the art of slowing down, totally embraced perfectly imperfect. And now my pain turned my purpose is all about inspiring people to be, do, have. So be who you are, fully express, unapologetic, create a life and business from who you are. So the doingness is from who you are, so that you can have all that you desire. So be, do, have. And so that really transformed the way I worked as a therapist, and I got certified in eating psychology as well as Hikomi, and to this day I still very much use Hikomi in my work with my clients, whether they're life and business, life or business coaching clients. And so it's like, it was so profound. Fast forward, I'm so inspired by my clients. I became the first psychologist in my province to create an online program and sell it. And that opened a whole lot of doors, Megan. I got my first international speaking gig. I got on a cover of a women's fitness magazine, and I did not have to diet. I did not get photoshopped, and on purpose I showed off, obviously show it off, but celebrate my the part of my body that I hated the most, which was my belly. And at this point, I love my belly. That was back in 2016, and I had just given birth to my first son's 2012, and then my other son is was born in 2014. So I had two boys at that point.
Wow, me too. Those same dates.
Oh, really? That's amazing. Synchronicities. And so I wanted to celebrate my mama belly, my stretch marks, and on purpose I wore very little clothing, like a sports bra and booty shorts. And I wrote a 4-page article on how to flex your self-love muscle. So what was really cool, of course, it's cool to be on a cover of a magazine, but the true amazing part was the impact this created, that women who saw this magazine and started to read it, were like, I kind of look like Roz, and I hate my body, but Roz looks great. And they start to read the article and realize, oh, it's how I perceive myself. It's how I go into relationship with myself. And it has nothing to do with what I actually look like. And so that was pretty amazing. I followed my calling, which was to go bigger. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my career, which is to decide to retire as a psychologist. I hired a business coach to help me start my self-love coaching business. And it just grew very quickly. And so I did not have plans to retire as a psychologist. I thought, hey, I could be both. But honestly, because of how strict it is to be a licensed therapist, especially where I am in that province, it felt like too boxy for my soul mission. My soul mission is so huge, and my personality, I know I'm meant to make a greater impact in a way that having a license would actually hold me back. And so I'm not saying this would be for everybody, but for me and my soul calling, that really felt like I need to bust out of this box. And so I was able to jump in full time into my business, my coaching business, and it shifted into very quickly, because I also speak on stages, women entrepreneurs wanting to help them get out of their own way and show up and really like create that life and business of their dreams. So I'm like, yeah, I could totally do that. So that shifted into business soul coaching. Recently, I'll say during 2020, because I'm like obsessed. If there's anything I'm obsessed about, Megan, it's personal and spiritual development. I continue to this day to do the inner work, to do the spirit work. And so one of the courses I took was a certification in Akashic Records. So some people might be wondering what that is. That is basically intuitive work where I'm accessing the records of your soul. And our souls have a library. And so as we access that, I'm channeling my clients' angels. So masters, teachers, and loved ones. Masters are the angels with you all your life. Teachers are angels with you for specific parts of your life, specific lessons. And then loved ones are people that you knew in this lifetime that have crossed over, including any miscarriages, souls from those miscarriages. And so in this reading, you basically can ask any questions you want, except time ones, like when will this happen? How long will that take? Time doesn't really exist in the records, in that sense. But what's beautiful is if you have blocks, which we all do, you know, the guides are able to show me whether it's in this lifetime or in past lives, because often it's very much in past lives, why these blocks are showing up and what are maybe some karmic, maybe even karmic trauma patterns that are coming into this life. Often if we have struggles in certain relationships, whether those are romantic or friendship or business, we may be going back to the past to clear some of that stuff. And that is my uniqueness, is I also speak light language, which is language that only our soul can understand. And so it bypasses the cognition. It comes from divine. And what light language does is it gives you exactly what your soul needs at that time. So whether it's healing, clearing anything away that doesn't serve and support you anymore, activating and amplifying your soul's purpose. So honestly, Akashic Records readings are so fun. They're one of my favorite things to do in business, and I bring that in actually as a life and business coach as well. So it's the bringing in the alchemy of all of this.
Wow, it's so amazing.
Yeah, and so some of that I did mention. I'll speak to some of the struggles, because it sounds like it was really smooth, but it really wasn't. Like I said, it was really tough, Megan, to retire as a psychologist. Like, I love being a psychologist, and I was like, oh my gosh, like how the stuff that came up. And those that are listening, if you have if you're perhaps in a 9-to-5 right now, or you're in a practice or business that even though you love it, or maybe you don't love it and it feels soul sucking to you, and then you want to jump into something that you're feeling called to, I get it. It is not easy. There's the inner critic that comes up, especially around security, financial security. You know, mine would say, well, Rosalyn, why the heck would you start a new thing? You know, you're making really good money. You have a young family to take care of. Like, our inner critic can sound very logical. Mm-hmm. And is this really responsible? And then it would also say, this is so ego, Megan, it would say, like, you are going to demote yourself from a psychologist to a coach. So ego.
Back to the masculine achievement, right? Like, why would you give up this
right?
highly recognized piece of society?
Oh yeah, and it's so much part of my identity, right? And I'm going to make it clear, from like Rosalyn's as I am today, I know that I am not my titles, and we are not our titles, but we get so wrapped up in our identity with titles, unfortunately, in the 3D world. And so that was a really big struggle. And the other one that was really huge was, are you willing to risk disapproval, especially from your Asian parents? And if anybody knows about Asian culture, we are all about the doing and the status and the achievements, right? And it's just like, my parents would never understand. Will this ruin my relationship with them? Will they think I'm crazy? And so, yes, they actually did think I was crazy. And the worst did happen. You know, my dad actually stopped talking to me for like 2 months. He thought I was being brainwashed by my business coaches. He couldn't get it. You know, why the heck would I go through all these years of schooling and all this investment schooling? You know, jumping through hoops is not easy to become a registered psychologist, and have a successful private practice and give all of that up to do this. What the heck are you doing anyways, Rosalyn? You know, and so here's the thing I really want people to hear. It's so deeply important to bet on yourself. If you have a dream within you, you have a nudge, it's so deeply important to follow that. If the dream is in you, it's for you. If the dream is in you, it is for you. I want you guys to breathe that in. So many times we like think, oh, you know, that's silly. or I'm not good enough, or other people are doing that anyways. Like, I'm not going to make the difference. But my love is like, this is what sucks your energy. If you aren't truly living in your soul purpose, if you aren't following that thing that nudge that keeps coming back at you and won't shut up, there's a reason. There's a reason. God, source, spirit, whoever is that higher power, your highest self, has placed this on you. We're not here to live a mediocre life. We are here to live our soul purpose, to master these lessons, to serve and support and show up in our gifts. And we're actually robbing the world if we don't show up and shine and share our gifts. We're robbing ourselves and we're robbing others. And it's not an easy journey, but it is the most rewarding. I really believe that the biggest purpose of life is to evolve, is to master soul lessons, like those things that are really hard in your life right now, whether it's conflicts in a relationship, maybe figuring out what it is that you want to do when you grow up, quote unquote, parenting, right? Whatever that is, maybe some health issues, right? Struggling with food, struggling with body image, self-sabotage, like those are all beautiful doorways in to deeper self-love, to deeper self-trust, to tune into your intuition. When we lean into the triggers, that's where the medicine is.
So I know you work a lot with women in imposter syndrome. Can you share a little bit of how you help women overcome that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Working with imposter syndrome is one of my favorite things too. Okay. Everything's like my favorite. Megan, in human design, if anybody follows human design, I'm totally a manifesting generator. Like, I can't just stick to one thing. There's like multiple things happening. So passionate about so many things. But with imposter syndrome, so just to define that, that's when you are absolutely freaking capable of what it is that you offer, that you have gifts and that you can offer those and deliver them really well. And on some level, you may know that, and other people really recognize it. But on that inner critic level, it's really hard to accept that you are this amazing and you can't quite see it, even though other people can see it. And so we feel like a fraud. That's often what happens with imposter syndrome. You feel like a fraud. And then what happens is symptoms are you start to hide. You start to play small, or not even start. You are playing small. You are hiding. And you're shrinking and shrinking. So the first thing is, those of you who are like, oh my gosh, this resonates with me. I totally am playing small. I'm totally hiding. I'm totally have been desiring to play bigger and serve and support, but I'm so scared. I don't feel like I'm good enough. This is for you. Okay. So number one is to always, in order to create change, is self-awareness, right? So you are self-aware that you are playing small, that you're hiding, that other people can see you have gifts, and you on some level know that you do, but you don't feel good enough about it. So then let's look at then what are the beliefs that are keeping you feeling like a fraud? Where in your life, or what times in your life, so this often means exploring your inner child work, right? So where in your life were you told that you're not enough, that you're not good enough, or your work's not good enough, or whatever that might be, right? Where along the journey did that happen? And it might have been in teens too, or it's not always inner child stuff.
Well, I think a lot as women, we get taught that even if you know you're great, don't shine that strong.
Yes, there's actually there's so many societal messages, and there's tons of research on this. There's a book called The Confidence Code, and it's totally all research on women and their confidence in themselves. One of the studies I'm recalling right now at the top of my head is women will undermine themselves. So in the corporate world, they will, when compared to men, women will rate themselves less, and they are not as confident to ask for promotions. And men are way more confident and rate themselves actually higher than how they actually perform. So men have the opposite effects, I mean. And so that's really interesting when women actually can outperform these men, but they will undermine themselves. And I really believe that that speaks to a lot of societal messages. There's also research that shows that around the age of 11, so, around puberty, the beginning of puberty, this is when girls start to quiet their actual voices. This is when they start to shut down their truth because they're told to be, quote unquote, polite compared to boys. Boys will still be sharing the truth. I'm recalling a research study where, and I don't actually remember what the scenario was, but I think it was them talking, eating something that was clearly really gross. And the boys were like, blah, and I remember watching this study. And then the girls were like, oh, yeah, it tasted good, and you could tell that they were trying to be polite, right? And so, I love that there's movements about girl empowerment and women empowerment. And also let's give the men some love. The conscious men are, we need men to support the movement of uplifting women as well, in that way. I think that it's slowly shifting, which is beautiful, but we still have a lot of work to do. Clearly, when women are still struggling with imposter syndrome, much more than men in comparison. And so, coming back to the change process, so self-awareness, being clear about where these beliefs came from, how they show up, and then actually starting to shift your beliefs. So one of the things that I get my clients to do is to write down. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the business coaching clients. So for them, even though they're really good at what they do, they can't see it sometimes. So I'll say, well, look at your client results. What is it that you support your clients in? And what are some of the biggest breakthroughs they've had? Because that is like a container that you had when working with them. And without you being their guide, now I'll be really clear, we can't create results for our clients. They got to do that themselves. But it's it's our power to be able to share our gifts and then see the beautiful activations that happen. And so when we are looking at how clients are raving about us, now let's say it's not business coaching, it's life. Look at what people are saying about you, people that you care about are saying about you. Look at the things that you have that make you happy. Look at the things that you are good at, right? And really where your attention goes, your energy flows. So then when you start to look for the evidence of the affirmative, that I am awesome, that I am capable, that I am good at what I do, and we start to open up and see more of that evidence that prove that. Our ego wants us is always proving to be right. So if you're focused on the negative, guess what? That we're going to look for evidence to support the negative. When we're focused on the affirmative and the positives, our brain will start to search for the evidence when we're consciously telling ourselves and training ourselves to do that. So over time, this becomes your new normal. That inner critic, also doing inner critic work and shifting that, is going to be tamed. We can't ever make our inner critic go away, but we can certainly tame it so that it's quieter and that it's not driving the bus, but rather we're like, oh yeah, I see you, okay, and love up on her inner critic because it's just our little girl. And That's why I say like inner child work is so important. It's like always coming home to ourselves. Even in business, like business is one big personal development journey, really a spiritual journey, right? And so you can't escape it. You are wherever you go. How you do one part of life is how you do all parts of life.
I love that. Can we continue on that exact little in there? How is being your own entrepreneur a spiritual journey?
So I'm going to teach this concept right now because it is one of my, again, another favorite things to talk about. But I also feel like this has been, for me, one of the greatest and most profound lessons that has shifted how I start to show up in life, in all areas. So it's a concept of taking personal responsibility. And what that means is the opposite of that is victim. So victim is life is happening to me, and I'm blaming myself or blaming others. And personal accountability is life is happening for me and through me. Now, at the highest level of personal accountability is spiritual accountability. And I like to say, let's take radical personal and spiritual accountability. So everything is neutral until we put meaning to it. And how we do that is based on our belief system. And so if something is triggering us in a negative way, we need to look at why we're being triggered, because you could have 4 people in the same situation, but only you get triggered, no one else does. How come? And there's absolutely no, like, when you're doing this work, do not judge yourself. Have tons of self-compassion, okay? And so let me see what, I've got tons of examples. Which one am I feeling called to speak about? Okay, I'll talk about this one, because no one ever really talks about this, and I'm totally bold, so I'm going to do it. Nightmare clients. Let's talk about nightmare clients, okay? I actually just talked about it on my stories on Instagram. So why do nightmare clients happen? Nobody wants to freaking deal with them, right? But they do show up. And so I'm gotten to a place from a spiritual accountability perspective. I gotten to a place where I can actually be grateful for them. Here's why. Because everything is a mirror for you. And so if I had called in victim clients, that's what nightmare clients are. They actually are victims, right? I'm here holding up a mirror for them, and they are, instead of doing the work and looking at themselves, they're projecting at me for not getting them the result. It's not my responsibility to have
show up.
Yeah, show up. Like, I can't do that.
To show up for them.
Yeah, exactly. And do the work for them. They need to do the work themselves. And so from this place, then it's like, okay, from a spiritual accountability perspective, and even a personal accountability perspective, it's recognizing that, again, life is happening for and through me, okay? And so if that is true, that means I'm co-creating in this situation. And if that is true, from a spiritual perspective, this nightmare client is actually a teacher for me, if I choose to look at it that way, okay? So I'm really triggered right now, and this person's a teacher for me. What is it that I need to learn here? How come I am still calling in victim clients? And so if I'm calling in victim clients, there must be some way in how I'm probably still a victim in my life to something. So this actually wasn't that long ago. This was last year. I don't work with any victim clients anymore because I cleared all that out. But this was like the last situation. It was so miraculous, Megan. Even I'm like, in those, even when I look back, I'm like, that was literally the power of spirit. So nightmare client projected and blamed me for not having the results in her business. Then that got me looking into myself and going, what the heck? Where am I showing up as a victim? And I was jamming with a girlfriend, actually, who happens to be a coach as well. And And, we couldn't really figure it out because I do a lot of work, and I find that, like when you do so much work, you're super open, but of course we still have blind spots. So we dropped the subjects, jammed a little bit more girlfriend chat. And then she just asked, hey, do you know so-and-so? And then I just bawled, Megan. I just bawled. And I was like, yes, you know what? We used to be really good friends. She's a very successful entrepreneur. I really admire her work. I really respect her. And we were really good friends. We actually were each other's clients for a while. And I'm like, I don't understand what happened. She kind of started giving me the brush off over the last, I think at that point, it was like over the last year and a half. And to the point where like I would ask about her masterminds, and because I was interested in joining them, and just totally ignored me. So I'm like, that's interesting. And so like
that interesting word. Okay.
And so that was probably a third time her name was brought up, and I started crying, and my friend says the most obvious thing, it's obvious when you're not in it. Well, have you asked her for a conversation? No. So
you mean directly? Like she's not reading my mind?
Right. And I'm laughing because I'm a very good communicator. I'm a previous couples therapist. That's what my master's is in, but when you're in your own shit, you can't see the forest from the trees. So, as soon as I got clear about that, I was like, oh, okay, to clear my victim energy, I literally need to just go and ask, because that was so much. I mean, obviously it was so much more than that. It was just like literally being brave, being courageous, and being vulnerable to ask for that conversation, to share what's been on my heart. And so, of course, my ego sinks in after the phone call. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll hold off. And here's how spirit works for me. So amazing, because there's always signs. Well, I have an iPhone, and you know how iPhone like pops up photo memories? Mm-hmm. No word of a lie. We never have like photo memories come up. Like she's not that much in my phone, and she's not even labeled. Her name's not labeled in my phone. This memory from 4 years ago for us together came up. I was like, all right, spirit, I hear you loud and clear. So immediately I took action, and I just messaged her. Now I'm really clear that whether she says yes or no is not that doesn't matter. What matters is I show up, I take responsibility, I break free of my victim. And as soon as I did that, Megan, the most miraculous things happened in the next 2 days. My business started aligning like crazy. So clients that I really felt like were no longer super aligned kind of wanted to this is so amazing. They're like, can we keep paying you? But you know what? I need to take a pause. I need to go take care of some of things for myself. Because at that point in time, I was only doing business coaching and not life and soul coaching. And I'd like to come back once I'm feeling more ready. And I'm like, oh, okay, amazing. And then, and put into context, I was also a good problem to have. I was outgrowing my business model. Mm-hmm. And so I was actually kind of feeling overwhelmed. And then I was able to just like have more spaciousness in my life and my business. And that was literally only 2 days with nothing other than showing up, getting clear about how I was victim, breaking free of that. And then all of a sudden, all of this started coming in. I was like, oh my gosh, you can't make this shit up. So that's how entrepreneurship or life in general is a spiritual journey, is that when you start really paying attention to the signs, what's triggering you, lean into it, use that as medicine, look deeper within yourself, and look for signs of how spirit is here. Not everybody may believe, because I want to make it really clear, it's not about religion, it's about understanding the universal laws, right? There's lots of universal laws, whether it's source, higher power, maybe it's just literally life force energy, right? But that there is something greater beyond ourselves. There's forces that are working with us, the universe. And so when we really see that, Signs could be like repeating numbers. That's how my angels let me know they're around, is I see them on license plates all the time. Each number is often represents something different when you see them repeating. I see them on houses. I see them on my phone, like different ways in how they show up to let my angels let me know, like, I'm here. So that's one way. Synchronicities is another way.
I love your 2 cents on, I'm sure we both follow a lot of spiritual people and are in sort of spiritual bubbles to some extent. But at the same time, I do feel like it's just becoming maybe not quite mainstream, but there's an increasing interest, particularly from women, also men.
Yes.
But I think there's something unique about why women are seeking it out. What's been your experience in terms of, I don't know, women just being attracted to working with you because you're so spiritual, even though they can't really put their finger on why that attracts them to you,
Well, okay. So yeah, there's 2 types of people that come reach out to me. So number one, because I speak light language, and I know I don't hide it anymore, but when I got gifted this about, I will say almost 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I hid it at first. I was like, oh my God, this is like kind of weird. Right? Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm not speaking English. I'm not speaking like a language on this planet. And so as I actually hired one of my clients who speaks light language and teaches about courses and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, I need you. I need to learn it because I know this is a gift. I just don't know how to use it. And so, who gets attracted to me are people who are just awakening. And I literally have a tagline that says, show up to magnetize your dream life. And so, I feel like that's a really important thing. Is people are like, well, how do you always, not that I always look happy. I'm also not afraid to cry on Facebook Lives and things like that, because that's real. But how is it that you live such a joyful life? Like, how is it that you can work through conflicts in such a way that doesn't take you out for good? And I literally had a client hire me because she's like, Roz, you literally wear a Wonder Woman costume and you don't give a shit about what other people think. And she's like, I want that kind of self-worth. I want that kind of confidence. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So they have some idea of being intuitive. They don't quite know how to tune in more into their intuition. And so they want to learn how to do that. So it's a really deeper self-love journey, connecting with also your intuition and your and higher guidance. And then I have clients who are very woo. In fact, they're probably way more woo than I am. And I learn a lot from them, which is so beautiful. And what's beautiful is when you, again, this goes back to sharing and shining your gifts, you start to just attract people who are in the same frequency or who want to be in the same frequency. Mm-hmm. Right? And so my experience, Megan, going back to your question of people now, how I'm attracting people, like they are either very woke or they're wanting to be moving into that more spiritual state and really finding that inner peace. Because at the end of the day, I mean, really, it's finding and being in the flow state, the peace, joy, and love state.
Yeah, definitely. Can you expand a little bit on frequency? Because I love that word.
Me too. Me too. Well, I'll talk about it from a science perspective. Because I always like to ground things in science. So energy are emotions in motion. So there is a physicist named Dr. David Hawkins who actually created something called the map of consciousness. And you can actually go and Google this. He's got books on this. And one book that I'm thinking of is Power versus Force. But essentially, the map of consciousness is like a pyramid. You can think about it that way. And at the lowest, because he's taken and measured emotions and then put a number, assigned a number to it. So the lowest vibration of an energy, or frequency is the other word, is shame. We can all think about a shameful experience. And as soon as we do that, because remember, your body can't tell the difference between thinking about something versus being there, you all of a sudden feel heavy, right? It feels low, it feels dense, it's heavy. And so the highest of this map of consciousness is enlightenment. So this is Jesus, monks, Buddha, right? And this is divided, the whole thing is divided into two levels of high vibration and low vibration. So you got shame, and then you got guilt and anger, frustration, and at the top, there's more, but I'm not going to name all of them. At the top of the low vibrations is pride. So when you look back at my story, I was in pride when I was in bodybuilding and I was wearing masks. I was a perfectionist. I was not willing to let the world know my real me. And I was hiding behind perfectionism, behind my doingness. And so the first step into the high vibrations is courage. That makes sense. It takes courage to start taking off that mask. You need to have courage to say, I need help, I'm struggling. It takes courage to look inside yourself. And so from this place, as we continue doing the inner work, we start to elevate into, this is where most of us want to be, flow state, which is peace, love, and joy. These are vibrations. They are energy. When you hang out with people who vibrate in this way, you feel this energy, and it's contagious. It's super contagious. You leave those conversations feeling more inspired, feeling more uplifted, feeling more energized, versus when you're hanging out with people who are in low vibrations of shame, of, that could look like gossiping, talking about other people, putting other people down, putting self down, right? Comparing yourself to other people, or other people comparing themselves with others. Like, yuck. Even as I say these things, you can feel the vibration like lowering. Right? And so energy doesn't lie. You can even think about when a couple has a fight, but you walk in the room after they have a fight, the energy is still lingering, right? We all know that. And so the energy, frequency, vibrations all mean they are emotions in motion.
Yeah. It's so true, right? Like all the things. Can you imagine if we were raised from childhood to really perceive energy? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure you see it in your kids too. They are more in tune to it than most adults, right?
Oh, they absolutely are. And in fact, I feel like now the kids nowadays are actually born a lot more intuitive. My kids actually are very intuitive. And we are, as children, very intuitive. In fact, I got shut down. I could see when I was a young girl, but my parents didn't know anything about this. And so, long story short, this will have to be for another day. People can listen to my podcast to hear this story, but I got locked in a room with a ghost. And this is when I was like 4. So I was like shutting down, but I never do that. And all my life you're gonna laugh, I was scared of psychics. I was so scared. I was scared of like people telling ghost stories. I was scared of going to haunted houses that were fake, the carnival stuff. And I couldn't understand why, because it was so unconscious. The trauma stored in the body until, again, I won't go into this story, but basically it went through quite a spiritual awakening after my first son was born. He's 9 now. And ever since then, I've been working lots with healers and mentors in that to help me really open up my psychic abilities, really. So today I'm a psychic. But it's like, now that I know what I know, as a parent, I really want to make sure my kids are dialing in on these beautiful intuitive gifts and really use them for like honoring who they are and how they navigate in the world, rather than shutting these parts of ourselves down.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Well, I feel like we could talk for hours, Rosalyn, but let's
Me too.
round it in. How can people contact you? What are you currently working on? What do you want to share with us before you go?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Bold Sexy Warrior. On Facebook, it's Rosalyn Fung Coaching Bold Sexy Warrior. And my website, rosalynfung.com. I also have my podcast, Activate Your Soulgasmic Business. And it's a podcast specifically for personal and spiritual growth. I do talk a little bit about business, but mostly it is personal and spiritual. More if you enjoy the stories I just shared and you want to tune in more, you want to hear about I have every single episode. There's a meditation with a light language activation at the very end. So those are ways in how you can connect a little bit more with me. If you are desiring it for an Akashic record session, you can check that out on my website and just book in there. And I've got freebies on my website as well. So I think I'll just send everyone to either Instagram and go to the link in my bio. And what am I most excited about right now? I'm actually offering a life coaching certification. And this is really geared towards, so my angle is I really gear towards light workers and healers who want to raise their rates, raise their client results, ditch imposter syndrome, and really take their business to that next level of money flow, of impact, and really like be able to be, do, and have. And that the certification course is really, it's a personal development course, like anything, right, for ourselves. But then you also get an understanding of how we can hold space very differently as a healer and light worker. Now, if you're none of those and you're like, I would like to take this certification, come on in. It's totally also for you too, if you're feeling called to work with me and coming home deeper on yourself and being able to learn how to hold space for others in such a beautiful way.
Beautiful. And I love the title of your podcast, by the way, Soulgasmic. Brilliant.
Thanks, love. It's one of my favorite words is soulgasm.
All right. Well, we will definitely share all of those links in the show notes so people can connect with you. And thank you again for being here and sharing yourself and holding space for us.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it on social or in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.